The morning began with a tension that could almost be tasted. Even before Judge Judy entered the courtroom, whispers stirred through the audience like wind through dry leaves. People leaned in, nudging each other, trying to get a glimpse of the defendant, a woman whose reputation had somehow arrived before she had. Her name was Cassandra Hale, a woman wrapped in designer fabric and unapologetic arrogance. The moment she stepped through the double doors, the courtroom picked up a new atmosphere, one saturated with entitlement. She didn't shuffle in nervously the way most defendants did. She strolled, chin lifted, heels tapping a rhythm that announced, "I don't belong here with these people." She scanned the room with an expression that blended boredom and disdain, as though she were visiting a place far beneath her social level. Her jewelry glittered under the fluorescent lights, expensive stones catching every flicker. A hush fell as people watched her march to the defendant's table. Cassandra didn't sit quietly. She tossed her purse, an item worth more than some cars, onto the table with dramatic flair. Her lawyer, a nervous-looking man with thinning hair, whispered something to her, presumably warnings about courtroom behavior. She waved him off with a flick of her fingers, like someone shooing away an insignificant fly. Across from her sat the plaintiff, Margaret Dawson, a middle-aged woman with calloused hands and eyes that had weathered years of struggle. She wore a simple blouse and clutched a folder of papers so tightly it wrinkled. Everything about her was the opposite of Cassandra, humble, nervous, and painfully aware of the stakes. The case: unpaid wages, damages to property, disrespect, exploitation. A long list, but beneath all that was something else, a story of a wealthy woman treating people like they were disposable. The bailiff announced the judge's entrance. Everyone rose, everyone except Cassandra. She lazily lifted herself halfway, then sat back down before Judge Judy even reached her seat. Immediately, murmurs erupted. Judge Judy, sharp as a blade, caught it instantly. Her eyes narrowed. She set down her papers, pinned Cassandra with a stare, and said, "You stand up properly next time. In this courtroom, people rise when I enter, not halfway, not whenever you feel like it, but when instructed. Do we understand each other?" Cassandra smiled, a slow, smug expression. "With all due respect, Your Honor," she said with syrup-sweet arrogance, "I'm not used to being ordered around. And besides, laws don't really apply to people of my..." The audience inhaled sharply, even the court reporter froze. Judge Judy leaned forward, eyebrows raised, finished that sentence. "I dare you." Cassandra paused, but arrogance still simmered in her voice. "My status." A heavy silence smothered the room. Even the hum of the overhead lights felt louder. Judge Judy set her jaw. "This is going to be interesting." And for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Cassandra's polished features. As the hearing began, Margaret explained her side of the story. Her voice trembled at first, but she spoke with sincerity. She had worked as a housekeeper for Cassandra for nearly 8 months. During that time, she was paid sporadically, spoken to with condescension, and treated like furniture, in Margaret's own words. Cassandra scoffed loudly. Judge Judy raised a hand. "One more sound out of you and I'll find you in contempt." "Continue, Ms. Dawson." Margaret swallowed hard and went on. She described long hours, impossible demands, and verbal abuse so cutting they still echoed in her mind. Then came the incident that brought them to court, the day Cassandra dismissed her, refused to pay her final wages, and accused her, without evidence, of damaging a vase. Margaret brought receipts, photos, and even text messages. She held them carefully, like fragile proof of dignity she was fighting to reclaim. Cassandra rolled her eyes at every piece of evidence. When it was her turn to speak, she didn't start with facts. She didn't start with defense, she started with herself. "Judge," she said, tossing her hair, "I want to make it absolutely clear that I am a person of significant standing. My family's businesses employ hundreds. We attend charity events. We donate. We are pillars in our community. I don't have the time or inclination to argue with people who are beneath." "Stop." Judge Judy's voice cracked like a whip. Cassandra blinked. "Say what you mean. You think she's beneath you? Or that the rules don't apply to you? Or both? I'd like to know exactly how far your arrogance goes." Her lawyer tugged at her sleeve, whispering frantically. Cassandra ignored him. Your Honor, I am simply explaining that people of my level are not held to the same constraints. I move in circles where problems like this are handled quietly. Not in a place like this. She gestured vaguely at the courtroom. The audience grumbled. Judge Judy tapped her pen slowly, deliberately. Miss Hale, she said, you seem to be under the impression that money is a shield against consequences. Maybe in the circles you travel, that's tolerated. But in my courtroom, reality functions differently. Cassandra gave a sarcastic little laugh. Well, that's your opinion. Judge Judy leaned forward, voice firm. No. That's the law. And it applies to you. The courtroom fell silent again. She's lying, Cassandra insisted, pointing at Margaret. She probably damaged that vase herself. People like her don't understand the value of things like that. They just take advantage of generosity. Margaret's eyes filled with tears, not of guilt, but of exhaustion. Judge Judy turned slowly. Miss Hale, do you have proof? Cassandra hesitated. Well, no. But I know, knowing is not proving. Cassandra's jaw tightened. She was losing control, something she clearly wasn't accustomed to, and Judge Judy wasn't finished. Miss Hale, did you or did you not tell Ms. Dawson that she should be grateful to work for someone as important as you? Cassandra didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. Of course I said that. It's true. The audience gasped. Judge Judy dropped her pen. The sound echoed like a gavel. This, she said, is going to be easier than I thought. Judge Judy began dissecting the case with surgical precision. She asked for timelines, payment records, and verification of working hours. Margaret had everything neatly organized. Cassandra had nothing but arrogance. When questioned about the unpaid wages, Cassandra responded, I didn't pay her because she didn't deserve it. Judge Judy's eyes flashed. And what qualifies you to make that determination? Do you imagine you hold a private judicial seat in your mansion? Cassandra shrugged with infuriating confidence. My intuition is very reliable. The room erupted in quiet laughter before the bailiff silenced them. Judge Judy leaned back, studying Cassandra like one studies a rare but unpleasant insect. You're telling me you declined to pay an employee who worked for you because it didn't feel right to you? Exactly, Cassandra said, as if explaining something simple to a child. Judge Judy turned to Margaret. Ms. Dawson, did she ever tell you she was withholding your pay because she thought you didn't deserve it? She told me, Margaret replied, voice low, that people like me should be thankful for any money at all. And that she could replace me with someone younger, cheaper. Cassandra smirked. Well, it's true. Judge Judy's face hardened. What gave you the impression that you can talk to human beings like that? Cassandra tossed up her hands. Please. It's not my fault some people can't handle honesty. Judge Judy inhaled deeply, one of her dangerous signs. Then she spoke in a voice so calm that it sent chills across the room. Miss Hale, I have seen every kind of entitlement in my years on this bench. But yours is exceptional. Cassandra smiled proudly, misunderstanding the remark. Judge Judy continued, you walk in here dripping with privilege, clutching a purse worth more than most people's annual salaries, and believe that makes you immune. You believe wealth gives you altitude, and from that altitude, you assume you can look down on others without consequence. Cassandra folded her arms. You're twisting my words. No, Judge Judy said, I'm clarifying them. Then she turned to the audience. Everyone listen carefully. This attitude right here is the exact reason society needs laws. Because when arrogance marries money, you get people who think accountability is optional. Cassandra's smirk faltered. Judge Judy wasn't done. You said earlier that laws don't apply to you. Let me correct that falsehood. She leaned forward, staring directly into Cassandra's eyes. In this courtroom, the law applies especially to you. The room went still. Cassandra finally looked uneasy. Judge Judy began reading her judgment with clear, commanding authority. Each word carried weight and finality. First, she said, you owe Ms. Dawson the full amount of unpaid wages. Every cent. Cassandra growled under her breath. Judge Judy continued without flinching. Second, you owe her additional compensation for emotional distress caused by your appalling treatment. I don't do that often, but your behavior warrants it. The audience murmured in approval. Cassandra stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. You can't do that. You don't understand who you're dealing with. Judge Judy slammed her hand on the desk. Sit down. Cassandra froze. Her lawyer tugged her sleeve again, nearly begging. Third, Judge Judy said, the vase incident is dismissed entirely. You provided no proof. Only accusations wrapped in condescension. Finally, Judge Judy leaned back, folded her hands, and delivered the line that silenced the courtroom entirely. Miss Hale, wealth is not a license. Status is not a shield. And arrogance is not a form of intelligence. In this courtroom, the law applies equally. If that concept offends you, I suggest you reevaluate your understanding of the world, not the world's understanding of you. The courtroom fell into stunned quiet. Cassandra stood rigid, her face pale beneath her makeup. For the first time, she looked small, like her wealth couldn't wrap itself around her and protect her. Judge Judy ended with, judgment for the plaintiff. Next case. The bailiff called the room to order as Cassandra swayed slightly. Her ego, once towering, lay cracked at her feet. Margaret, tears in her eyes, whispered a soft thank you to the judge. But the most remarkable sight came as Cassandra left the courtroom. For the first time since she walked in, she didn't hold her head high. Her confidence had been replaced with disbelief. The audience watched her go, whispering with the same energy as they had when she arrived, but now with a different tone. Respect for Judge Judy, vindication for Margaret, and for Cassandra. The realization that the laws she thought didn't apply to her had caught up in the most public, humiliating way possible. The courtroom slowly emptied, leaving behind the echo of Judge Judy's words that reminded everyone present of a powerful truth. No one is above the law, not even the wealthy, especially not the arrogant.